You said you needed a brain transplant to get on top of this car, but it really seemed to come alive for you in that second stint towards the end there. Was there a point where you did feel comfortable in the race today?
No,
No.
there wasn't 1 second, no.
Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, sits 7th in the World Championship with a measly 33 points, while his teammate Charles Leclerc enjoys life on the podium. 5 races into his dream move to Ferrari, Hamilton's season is sliding faster than his rear tires on cold rubber. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix delivered yet another humiliating performance from the British racing legend, finishing a shocking 31 seconds behind his teammate. So what's going on? Has Ferrari secretly sabotaged his car? Are the pedals installed backwards? Or is the greatest driver of his generation suddenly forgetting how to drive? Let's dive deep into the shocking truth behind Hamilton's spectacular freefall at Ferrari. Hamilton's struggles didn't start when he put on the red suit. They began years ago with the reintroduction of ground effect technology to Formula One. Remember 2022, when cars were bouncing down straights like they were on pogo sticks? That porpoising phenomenon was just the beginning of ground effect problems. Most teams have fixed the bouncing, but there's a fundamental issue that still plagues drivers like Hamilton. Ground effect creates a physics problem that's destroying Hamilton's driving style. As these cars slow down for corners, the grip shifts dramatically from the rear to the front. This means drivers can suddenly find themselves understeering or losing stability mid-corner. Hamilton developed his championship-winning style in a different era. His signature late-braking dives into corners and those minute steering wheel adjustments worked perfectly in previous generation cars. But add ground effect into the mix, that entire technique falls apart. If you've listened to Lewis Hamilton's post-race interviews this year, you'll hear him repeating the same things. He lacked balance. He lacked grip. He had to fight his Ferrari through the corners. He couldn't feel his Ferrari underneath him. These are all signs that he's having a tough time with the very concept of ground effect. He's even called these current cars the worst he has ever driven. That's a shocking statement from someone who's driven everything from his dad's old Renault to championship-winning Mercedes machinery. It was already a struggle at Mercedes, but now he's trying to adapt to this problem in a completely unfamiliar team environment. The second reason for Hamilton's Ferrari nightmare, the absolutely brutal start to the 2025 season. We've had 5 races crammed into just 6 weeks, with barely a weekend to breathe since the Australian Grand Prix. Add to that some of the most technically challenging circuits on the calendar, and you've got a recipe for disaster for a driver trying to adapt to a new team. Some drivers thrive on this relentless schedule. They love taking lessons from one race and immediately applying them to the next. They're in their element. But Hamilton, he's always been a driver who needs time to process. He likes to dig into the data, ask the right questions, and talk through problems with his engineers. He needs that mental space to reflect on what went wrong and how to fix it. Is one weekend enough to turn things around? Probably not. But with 5 races completed, at least there's a substantial pool of data for Ferrari's engineers to analyze. The question is, can they figure out what's wrong before Hamilton's confidence completely evaporates? In Italy, there was the Pope, and then there was Enzo. That quote from Luca Dal Monte, one of Enzo Ferrari's biographers, tells you everything you need to know about the weight of expectation at Ferrari. With almost a century of racing history, Ferrari isn't just a team. It's a national institution, a religion. Enzo Ferrari might have passed away in 1988, but that sense of grandiosity and expectation has only grown since. Italian motorsport is Ferrari, and Ferrari means passion, speed, and, let's be honest, stubborn pride. Remember when Enzo Ferrari refused to adopt mid-engine designs because the horse doesn't push the cart? That kind of stubborn belief has defined Ferrari's culture for generations. The boss is always right, even when they're spectacularly wrong. Fred Vassar has tried to modernize this culture with a more relaxed leadership approach, but he's just one man. The foundation of Ferrari is still built on an emotional connection to racing that can cloud judgment and lead to reactive decisions. This is a seismic shift from the calculated, methodical environment Hamilton helped create at Mercedes after joining in 2013. It's like moving from a precision Swiss watch factory to an Italian opera house. Both make beautiful things, but in completely different ways. Anyone who's switched jobs knows how disorienting a new company culture can be. Now imagine doing that under the scrutiny of millions of fans and the Italian media. Hamilton isn't just learning a new car. He's learning an entirely new way of working. Think about this. Have you ever changed jobs but kept the same role? Maybe you moved from one bank to another as a loan officer or switched restaurants as a chef. Even though you're doing the same basic job, everything feels slightly off, doesn't it? That's Hamilton's situation right now, but magnified 1,000 times. He might still be driving an F1 car, but everything else has changed. He's learning to communicate with team principal Fred Vasseur after years with Toto Wolff. He's adapting to being Charles Leclerc's teammate instead of George Russell's. He's driving a car he had zero input in designing. He's working with an entirely new race engineer and crew. Former F1 driver Guido van der Garde has delivered a brutal assessment of Hamilton's situation, warning that the British champion faces a problem he can't get out of as he struggles to adapt to life at Ferrari. The ex-Caterham driver believes the generational gap between Hamilton and today's young stars is proving insurmountable with the current regulations. When he came into Formula One, he was a cannon, young and eager, van der Garde said. He came in next to Fernando Alonso, and later he knew with Nico Rosberg at Mercedes that he actually had the upper hand. He had beaten him fairly easily since karting. He's facing a different generation now. He's getting older and also took a hit when he didn't manage to take that 8th world title. Van der Garde pointed out the fundamental difference in driving styles between Hamilton and younger competitors. He is also facing a younger generation that knows how to handle the driving techniques of the current generation of cars a little better than Hamilton has learned. I think at the moment that's a problem he can't get out of. Of course, I know a little bit about how I grew up and the driving style that was rammed into us, which is different from the generation of Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, and Lando Norris. They just drive differently, a bit rounder, and can deal with a loose rear end a bit easier. The Dutchman's verdict gets even harsher when discussing Hamilton's Saudi Arabian performance. He had no speed, really zero. Sometimes he was 1.5 to 2 seconds a lap slower than Charles Leclerc. He also finished 30 seconds behind Leclerc. I think he doesn't know what left and right is anymore, and that he really has a big problem. He cannot solve it himself. The gap is far too big. He has no confidence. This is really bad. He is a driver who needs to feel confident in the car anyway, but that's completely gone. Could Hamilton's Ferrari dream be turning into his worst nightmare? Tell us in the comments below.